The following is a conversation that took place with Dr. Urvish Joshi, who has been doing photography from the last 21 years alongside his medical career. In this podcast, we talked about importance of hobbies, having multiple interests, and photography in general.
The same question to you. What are you currently curious about?
That what is the future of photography in the times of COVID, especially with the cryptocurrency and such NFT and all those things are kicking in. Um, yeah, these are legit questions, legit worries. I think COVID is here to stay. It's not something like one fine day we'll wake up and COVID will be gone. I don't think that thing is happening. Uh, Being a doctor myself and being a public health professional for more than 16 years now, I can at least say that much that it's not going to go away just in a snap. So, in those circumstances, one needs to have a safety net, a plan B, or a backup carrier. That's what I always have been telling to my friends, to my peers, to my fellow shooters as well. That safety net can be anything. We humans are not just blessed with only one skill set. So one can always have multiple skill sets and can find some sort of balance with these skill sets so that the money making or making a living is not solely dependent upon photography or I would say an art form. Today or tomorrow or even after 5 years or 10 years, I don't see uh, one someone surviving only from one skill set or only from uh, one career. It's not like I'm using photography. For me, photography is still a hobby. It's still a weekend hobby. The other things, they are just the collateral advantages. But I have the luxury of treating photography as a hobby as of now. But for everybody else who just raised the question, I think the safety net is quite important. So yeah, start honing the skill set and start working on those plan Bs. I'm done.
No, this is a very beautiful point that you put forward because I was going to talk about it. Uh, about having multiple skill set, about having like multiple interests into different fields, and I also feel like because in this highly specialized world, we are kind of losing that generalist in a specialized world. Uh, it's an open question. Anyone could.
I would just uh, speak a bit about how I started, and your answer might be lying somewhere in that story. Um,
Sure, sure.
yeah. So I started out as a photographer, not as a photographer, as a learner in 99, 2000, somewhere around that, when I used to stay in the hostels. And it was a time of no internet, only the cyber cafes or the Yahoo chat rooms were the luxury. It was a time of no cell phones, no mobile phones, only uh, STD PCOs. And one, if one had to actually learn some art, one had to go through the magazines or attend some exhibitions, etc. So I started out with my father's camera. My father was a banker, and he also had photography as an interest, and he used to have a DSLR, the analog film camera, which I inherited from him, I would say. And I would just make merry with that little toy in those hostel days. From my pocket money, would wait for the developing and printing of each roll with 24 or 36 exposures. And uh, those were very different times. I would say I'm not trying to glorify the struggle or anything. I'm just trying to say that those were very different times than what we are in right now. uh, just because I used to like drawing during my school time, wanted a vent out for that artistic streak within me, which I found in photography. Uh, and then one thing led to another. Then started taking up things seriously, and a few good pictures, of few words of appreciation from friends or peers or relatives or parents, and uh, yeah, started taking it seriously. Started investing a few bucks in the kit, in the cameras, in the lenses, etc. Then the digital revolution happened, and the point and shoot 5 megapixel camera started coming in the market. So my first was Nikon F55 analog camera or Pentax, and thereafter straight away it was Canon S2IS, the point and shoot camera, with which I shot some 3 to 4 good years in all the farthest of the villages where my work took me as a public health professional. So those were the learning years, and trust me, when you start finding out the joy in an art form, it becomes really, really difficult to quit that art. The kind of city I used to live in those days, that was my learning ground, not only for medicine, but also for photography. So used to many people used to make fun of me as well, because it's a very odd kind of art, because it used to be really expensive in those days. It's expensive even right now, but only till the investment part in the kit. But till back then, it was like uh, it didn't end at just clicking. You had to have those prints in your hands, and that whole long arduous process was quite tiring and expensive. I think, Parth, what you asked about being a generalist in today's time, I would say, when you start finding pleasure in something, and when you are smart enough or lucky enough to find money making avenues out of it, uh, then there is no looking back. Then just the sky is just the limit.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. It's a wonderful story. Uh, like starting from the analog thing to transitioning to the digital thing. So I have a question regarding this also. Like I've seen you just like couple of times shooting, and uh, the way you have adopted the new mirrorless cameras, the speed at which you are working right now, and it's just great to just see you work because. It takes time, when you are transitioning from an let's say analog to DSLR to mirrorless camera. Once it was very manual, and now it's all automatic to click pictures with the mirrorless camera, and it was great to see because the way you were working with it is was like the best use of a mirrorless camera. So how was this transition like, and like how do you adopt this new technology so fast? Are you like a person who adopts new things very fast? I would like to know about this.
I think it all lies in your fundamentals. Uh, because when you are subjected to the toughest of the terrains when you are beginning, then anything and everything that is thrown in your way in terms of technology, it will just help you. You can just ease the thing, you can just simplify the things thereafter, because there is nothing tougher than the analog cameras, I would say. Because point number one, there is no autofocus. You have to uh, you have to focus manually. You have to go inside those two half circles inside the lens, inside the viewfinder, in order to achieve the optimum focus. Then nothing is available for you on the screen. Whatever you click, it will be visible to you on a piece of paper only when you develop that analog role. So that's another quite a dark area, I would say. Uh, the the struggle with only 36 exposures. I don't know how many of you know, but if you would revisit the weddings happening in those days, back in those days, in film analog cameras days, the studio photographers, they were given a brief by the client back in those days, that you have to use only 3 rolls or only 4 rolls, and we are going to pay you only for that. And once if the photographer is stuck while the wedding is happening in the mandap, he would be signaling, or he would be asking the client whether I should go for another role or not. And if the client approves, then he would just switch on to another role. So these kind of things actually make you understand the importance of one frame, each frame. So you don't just shoot random. With the digital advantage, we have started shooting very, very random things because we don't know. They're like you can just move a picture into a trash bin or delete it simply. We are not even printing those pictures. Because we are not printing those pictures, we do not value those pictures, or we try to take it slightly casually. So once you have trained yourself in such terrains, I would say, then you start experiencing uh, uh, any technology which is coming your way. When I moved from analog to the compact point and shoot, the flip screen was kind of a fancy thing for me. Uh, I could shoot while looking in the screen, or with a 180-degree flip. I could have some really interesting angles, bottom up angles, top down angles, everything. And it was so exotic for me that I kept on experimenting only with the angles in those years. Not even shutter speed, not even apertures and anything. Uh, in analog cameras, what I used to do, I used to have a pocket diary, and after each click, I used to record that, because everything was shot on manual mode. I used to record down the aperture, shutter speed, ASA, that is the equivalent of ISO now. And once the roll was printed, then I used to match every paper, every photograph with those recordings in the pocketbook. That okay, so on with this metering, the picture turns out like this. So it's a very hard game that you play. And once you play such kind of hard game, the other technologies just make your life easy. I'm not saying that people who are starting out now with the digital cameras are have to undergo such struggle. They are not supposed to. They are lucky enough to be born in easier times in terms of technology. But you have to put yourself uh, uh, under a hard task. Uh, 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 Otherwise, you I don't think it's that easy to understand your cameras, whether it is mirrorless or DSLR or analog camera. You have to give yourself, you have to challenge yourself with some really difficult tasks, and then only you understand your cameras better. For example, I have been to Pushkar annual fairs for more than 6 times now, and uh, every most of the times it was the DSLR between 2008 to 2014. So yeah, DSLR days. So earlier, once or twice I used to carry all the lenses that I had in those times, all the 50 prime or 35 prime and 55 200, and uh, I would need a tele also. I would need a prime also for low light. I would need an ultra wide angle lens also, etc. And after 2 times, I just stopped. I just stopped taking all the lenses. If even if I'm investing a lot in such annual trips, I would just be carrying only one lens. I would challenge myself with that one lens only for 3 or 4 days continuously. That okay, I'm going to shoot only on one focal length, and that's all. Come what may. So this is even when you are pampered with choices, you have to challenge yourself with very limited things, and then only you explore your gadgets more. That's what I personally feel.
Like it happens, when you are exposed to so much of the photography over the years and you have clicked so much pictures, you have seen so much work, then a, a normal photo won't impress you. So now, what kind of photograph stands out for you currently? And if someone like me who wants to develop taste into a photography, let's say as a hobby only, then what to see in a good photograph?
That's an excellent question, Parth. Uh, uh, you may not believe, but for 10 long years between 2000 to 2010. I used to keep on asking the same question to all my peers as well. Um, that okay, you have seen my work. What do you think? What is my genre? What is my style? What is my forte? What do you think? Because I used to click everything. I used to click landscapes. I used to click portraits, flora, fauna, uh, you name it, and I used to click it. And still, I did not have any idea about what I was excelling at or what was my calling. And that actually dawned on me around 2011 or 12 when I started liking a particular style in photography. I got drawn towards minimalism and abstracts, and thereafter a few portrait styles, very uh, not quite gimmicky styles of photography, but gradually I understood that okay, I like simplistic frames or simplicity in the compositions. So now, if you ask me after all these years, after 20 years, I would say the kind of photographs that are simple but beautiful, they actually draw my attention. It's not like a gimmick or a off camera flash or ये कर दिया वो कर दिया यहाँ से लाइट लेके आए ये फिल्टर लगा दिया ये शटर स्पीड में कुछ इनोवेशन कर दिया I those kind of things are good, but they just have that wow factor, but not a long shelf life, I would say. Uh, at least for me, I'm not generalizing the things. At least for me, I prefer to look at pictures that are arresting in nature and which are very, very simple, composition wise or expression wise, but pictures with a long shelf life. That is what I like as of now.
So finding beauty in the simplicity. That's very interesting. For me, it's always like what I'm feeling after watching this picture. Or it's perfect, but it's not very perfect, if that makes sense. Uh, so, uh, Urish bhai, do you still romanticize film photography? Like a lot of people are, going back to it, and they are, it's now a trend. So, what is it for you? Like, do you still romanticize it, or you want to go back to it, or something?
I'll be honest. No, I don't romanticize the film photography anymore. Uh, if there is something to make your life easier, why not to embrace it wholeheartedly? But yes, I think I romanticize or I miss those struggling days. That is the struggling part or the difficulty wala part that I'm missing. Uh, Given a chance, if uh, just to sound niche or cool or exotic, I would not be shooting only with the film or analog cameras and try to create a niche market or niche audience for myself. No, I don't think so. The upcoming cameras, the mirrorless cameras that we have right now in all the leading brands, Sony and Fuji and Nikon, they are excellent. And why not to make the most of it?
Right. So like I've seen your travel pictures and street pictures and all that, and I see two things. The one is the attention to the details, and another thing is the human emotions. Like you capture human emotions even in the travel photographs very well. So what is it like? What are you finding when you are clicking travel pictures, or let's say street photography?
Back in 2009-10 when the DSLR was a new thing for me and वो बहुत मुश्किल के बाद लिया था और back in those days I did not uh, any photography was not an earning source. So whatever the prizes I used to win in the exhibitions or in the competitions was the only uh, income or only reward from photography. So back then, in order to have those lenses, to upgrade the kit, etc., I used to put a lot of pressure on myself कि अभी मैं यहाँ पे जाऊँगा तो ये करूँगा, and I used to Google a lot. I used to go with many preconceived notions to areas, and gradually I started getting tired and bored. That uh, what am I doing? It's just copying uh, a picture that has already been executed, which I already found on Google, and I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. For example, if you go to Varanasi and you have to have one angle of a ghat or the Shashwamedh Aarti, uh, what is that? You are not doing anything that is pleasing you. You are basically shooting to please others. So then the whole paradigm shift happened, and I started traveling. Earlier I used to travel a lot with other photographer friends, uh, और वो थोड़ा एक पीयर प्रेशर रहता है, उसमें एक सेंस ऑफ कंपटीशन जैसा भी रहता है whenever you are traveling together कि आई विश आई हैड क्लिक दैट. वो वाली जो फीलिंग है वो बहुत रहती है when you are traveling in with a bunch of photographers who share the same ideas. तो कई बार आपके फोटोज बहुत अच्छे आते हैं, कई बार उनके फोटोज बहुत अच्छे आते हैं. तो एट द एंड ऑफ द डे व्हेन यू आर assembling and when you start to chimp in all the pictures and you tend to वो वाली फीलिंग थोड़ी क्रीप इन कर जाती है. तो आई grew out of it. I started traveling solo most of the times, and without any kind of pressure or agenda. So then I discovered that traveling was more fun than photography. Photography was just a byproduct. And I अगर आप ट्रैवल कर रहे हो, आप बढ़िया लोकल डेलिकेसीज टेस्ट कर रहे हो, लोगों को मिल रहे हो, यू आर exploring the culture, you are exploring the ethos of that particular community, and कहीं पे बैठे हो, सनराइज देख रहे हो, सनसेट देख रहे हो, एंड इन द मीन टाइम अगर आप थोड़ा बहुत फोटोग्राफी भी कर लेते हो, तो दैट जॉय, दैट इनर जॉय एक्चुअली रिफ्लेक्ट्स इन योर फोटोग्राफ्स. और वो जो है वो इंटेंजिबल रहता है, बट it survives the test of time, that joy. So I would say that आई डू नॉट गो आउट इन द स्ट्रीट्स. कई बार ऐसा भी हुआ है कि मैं कहीं पे गया हूँ, तो लाइक आई हैवंट इवन टेकन आउट माय कैमरा फॉर 1 or 2 days और वन कंप्लीट सेशन और टू कंप्लीट सेशंस, कि नो आई एम जस्ट एंजॉयिंग द होल वाइब, द होल फील ऑफ द प्लेस, एंड दैट्स मोर देन इनफ. उससे ज्यादा कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. But then if you feel like, okay, now this is a moment, then you should start clicking, and that joy, that fulfillment, it will definitely show in the pictures. That is what I personally believe for myself. For to each his own, हर के लिए ये different experience हो सकता है, but for me this has worked very well.
For me, it's totally opposite. But this is a really nice point. Even I need to try this, like to live in the moment, to just travel for the sake of travel, and then just if you find something very interesting, then click it. But is there anything that you just can't resist to click? Matlab, even if you don't have a camera, you have to take out your mobile and click it. Is there anything? Is there any moment, or let's say maybe just a sunset, or तो ऐसा कुछ है क्या?
Yeah, I would say graffitis and some catchy colors on the walls. That is something that that extremely, I don't know the reason, but वो मुझे बहुत अपील करती है ये चीज. Some really catchy colors on the walls and some some nice graffiti.
And to the topic of today, like how to pursue hobby alongside your regular career. So, Rush bhai, how have you managed your academic, your medical career alongside your photography career? Like, if you can share some stories or if you can shed light to it, uh, so stage is all yours.
Uh, I think Parth, it was a very conscious decision. Whatever I did as a doctor, as an MD, that was a very conscious decision. Though MBBS was not a conscious decision for me. It just वो एक इंडियन मिडिल क्लास सोसाइटी की जो होती है रट, उसमें आप चले जाते हो. इफ यू आर अ मेरिटोरियस स्टूडेंट, देन you have to follow a few things, and you have to aspire to become either an engineer or a doctor. No doubt, I am not saying that I don't enjoy what I am doing, but uh, I took a very conscious decision back then, somewhere around 2003, 2004, that I didn't want to be a clinician. I didn't want to be someone who did not have a social life or did not have time to devote to the hobbies or to the family. I wanted something without emergency, and since my whole family was in academics and everybody was a teacher, so that was kind of mutated in my DNA, I would say. And so I very consciously chose something that gave me the freedom of being a teacher as well as gave me ample time to pursue my hobby, uh, not only in the weekends but also after the office hours. So I used to have my small cameras wherever I went. And yes, it also gave me a lot of freedom to travel because in public health you have to travel to farthest of the villages. In the morning time you are in some all dirty slum area working for the benefit of some really uh, underprivileged people, and in the evening time you are sitting in some posh hotel and having some good discussion with uh, 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 with other stakeholders. So these kind of uh, freedom was given to me by my branch, by uh, this branch of public health, and I could do a lot with that one conscious choice of mine. And thereafter, it's just one thing. It's more like one thing led to another, and uh, I have been God has been kind enough, and I have been striking some sort of balance between these two. Like if I want to travel, I can travel. I don't have to think much about things. Uh, something on those lines. So yeah, so far so good.
So it's almost like your one career facilitated your, uh, you know, the interest, or let's say the uh, curiousness to explore photography.
Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. See,
hmm,
I would add one thing. When I was doing my internship, there was some flood in those areas, and I made a documentary, video documentary, and a photo documentary on that because we used to run OPDs in those uh, waterlogged areas and villages. And then I made a photo documentary on polio, pulse polio immunization also in those villages. And those documentaries were thereafter appreciated by the top officials of government in healthcare department, and that actually was the the boost to my uh, टू माय थॉट प्रोसेस कि हाँ अभी यही करना है बिकॉज इसमें मुझे मैं फोटोग्राफी भी कर सकता हूँ आई एम एबल टू मेक सम आई एम able to make some difference in the lives of people also by I can contribute in both the ways. So that was that decision.
hmm, hmm, hmm. Okay. Uh, so like, what kind of advice would you give to someone like me, or like anyone from the audience, like who is into like same kind of a dilemma, uh, like to pursue the hobby or to convert hobby into career, or to do both parallelly or something like that? If you can just give us some kind of advice.
I think the answer is very simple. If you stop enjoying what you are doing, just renounce from it, and just devote your total focus in something else that you actually enjoy. For me, I have been enjoying both the careers, both the my hobby as well as my medical career. So there is no question of renunciation from one. But for others, if you think that you are not able to make a mark in one thing, then just divert all your energies, all your resources to something else that actually gives you reward and pleasure both.
Hmm, totally, totally makes sense. Like if you are not enjoying it, then just for the even just for the financial aspect of it, like even just for the financial aspect of it, would it be like proper to pursue it, or would you just give your hobby a shot? What do you think?
I would again, जहाँ से हमने start किया था, I would come back to that. Have a safety net. Uh,
Hmm.
very good
Right.
point that you raised. Have a safety net with whatever you are doing right now, and then take a full plunge into something that you absolutely enjoy.
Totally, totally.
because yeah,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
this COVID has taught us, all of us, one thing, that things are really uncertain. However much we take our lives for granted, it's not certain. Nothing is certain. Everything is so fragile, and within a second, things change. We have everybody, all of us have seen so many patients around us. So many lives are lost, even in our close circles. So we cannot take things for granted. So we need to have some really good planning.
Totally. So, as far I have seen you, like you are very, uh, you know, one can say very particular about all the things. You are very orderly in a way, and to pursue a creative career, or let's say to pursue a creative hobby, you need to have certain kind of playfulness in you. So it's a very delicate balance between being an orderly person and being a playful person. Uh, so how do you manage both of this, or how do you go about, like how do you switch from being orderly to being a playful and being playful to being an orderly person?
I think I just hope I'm not being accused of being boring here. uh,
No.
I uh, see. You have to find your vent. That vent can be anything. That vent can be your travel, can be your friends, can be it can be your partner, it can be anything. A small book, or your OTT platform. You have to find your vent. As long as you have good vent that is giving you perspectives about life and about how you are as an individual, uh, that vent is actually contributing to your existence, and then uh, you can afford to be totally orderly or disciplined in your professional career.
Uh, yeah. So moving forward, I have like few last questions for you. So what have you unlearned in your career? So for me, it's just learning phase right now. But it is said that once you achieve a certain stage, you have to unlearn things that you have learned. So what have you unlearned?
Interesting. I used to get content very, very fast, very soon, uh, and I did not, just like everybody else, I did not like to have a lot of criticism on my photographs, because for every father, the baby is important, or the most, or the dearest. Similarly, for every photographer, each photograph of his is the dearest, and nobody likes criticism on the artistic content that one produces. Uh, so I wouldn't say unlearned, but I would say changed. I've changed that over the years. I've started. I've realized the importance of having good critics around me, uh, who, regardless of my whims and fancies, give me right advices or criticize uh, my pictures left, right, and center. So I would say we need to have those balancing voices around us.
Okay. So I guess I have last question. Uh, what do you enjoy apart from photography or your academic or your research career, or any activity that instantly calms you?
I mean, I'm into a lot of things. I love traveling, but again, traveling is just a part and parcel of photography, and photography is part and parcel of traveling. So I would not treat them separately. I Music is absolutely like I love all genres of music, anything and everything that is pleasing to my eardrums. I listen to it. Movies and the visual content that I consume, that's a very, very important part of my lifestyle, because I very firmly believe that whatever we see, we somehow subconsciously or consciously we imbibe that in our internal circuits, and that actually reflects in our art or what we speak afterwards. We don't even know that, okay, this thing actually made a difference after these many years, but it does. So I'm very choosy about what I consume visually on in terms of movies and OTTs. But yes, that's a whatever I consume that actually helps me with my style and style of photography and my compositions, etc. I love trekking in Himalayas, not in any other region. Somehow, Himalayas just soothe me down, and I feel very connected over there. So that's one more thing that I like. Before COVID, I used to travel a lot. Like every year, I would ensure that I'm on one international trip minimum and two or three local trips within India. Uh, but now things have changed, and I'm really uh, feeling suffocated with all the restrictions, travel restrictions. But yeah, let's hope for the best. Parth, one more thing that I would like to add to your previous question, which was about unlearning something or about importance of having good critics around you. I would say one needs to be really, really cruel and ruthless with your own art. Uh, uh, Usually, we are not. We pamper our content a lot, and over the years, I have learned that if you are clicking some 100 pictures from a trip and you start screening them before editing them, and if you tend to include each and everything in your final catalog or final uh, uh, workflow, you are not actually justifying the good pictures. You have to be really ruthless. If you are having even 1% doubt about your content, just delete that content. The more cruel you are with your content, more refined the content will be in future. That's what I've learned over the years.
I haven't traveled abroad, but is there any place that where you would like to, settle in the future, maybe out of all the places that you have traveled?
ओके अगर पैसे हैं तो न्यूजीलैंड अगर पैसे नहीं है तो हिमालय as simple as that.
Yeah, I just love New Zealand from the videos and the photos. It's on my bucket list. Would love to do that someday. So great. Urish bhai, if you have some questions for me, then you can ask.
Parth, actually, I'm quite surprised, pleasantly surprised with the depth in the questions that you have asked, and I'm actually looking forward to explore a lot many things and some artistic discourse with you in future. Uh, but
Sure, sure. It would be great.
yeah, it has been just a lovely dialogue so far.